Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to dive into a topic that everyone just assumes is simple.
Right.
It's something we take for granted because it's just always, it's just there. But today, we're stripping away the business case studies, we're ignoring the tech breakthroughs, and we are looking at the absolute original social network.
One network you can't log out of.
Exactly. We are talking about family. But specifically, we are analyzing a really fascinating artifact.
Yeah.
It's a script from a language learning program called Idioms Insight, specifically from their Day 12 module.
Right.
Now, on the surface, this just looks like a vocabulary list, a stack of words for English learners. But when you actually read it, and we have really dug into this text, it is a masterclass in cultural translation.
It really is. I mean, this document is attempting to do something incredibly difficult.
What's that?
It is trying to take the warm, chaotic, highly hierarchical, and deeply emotional structure of an Indian family and, well, squeeze it into the English language.
And English can be a little sterile sometimes.
It can be a bit cold,
Yeah.
A bit clinical, and sometimes very flat when it comes to relationships.
That is the tension right at the heart of this source material. The question isn't just, how do I say dad in English?
No.
It is, how do I translate the feeling of my household into a language that wasn't really built for it? And before we even get to the specific words, I want to talk about the framing here.
The setup.
Yes, the setup. The narrator, a guy named Jace, he opens Day 12 with a congratulations. He says, if you're here on Day 12, you've already survived 12 full days of English practice.
And that is a crucial psychological marker. In the world of, habit formation and self-improvement, that 2-week mark is often called the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death. That sounds a little dramatic.
It is, but it's accurate. When you start a new skill, you have that initial burst of dopamine. You're all excited.
Right, the novelty.
Exactly. But by day 10, day 12, that novelty wears off. The grind sets in.
And that's when you stop going to the gym.
That's when most people quit. Right around this point. So by explicitly calling this out, the source frames the listener not just as a student, but as a survivor.
I love that. He literally says, that's longer than most people last when they promise themselves they'll start tomorrow. It sets the stakes high. It tells you, the listener, you have earned the right to talk about what matters most.
And according to this source, what matters most isn't business or the weather or sports.
No, it's family.
Which, creates an interesting cultural contrast right off the bat.
How so?
So if you look at standard Western ESL English as a second language textbooks, family often comes much later.
Oh, that's true.
You usually learn introductions, then jobs, maybe ordering coffee, and then eventually you get to family. But here, on day 12, it is framed as the heart of every conversation.
That phrase really stuck out to me, the heart of every conversation.
The implication there is that in the cultural context of this audience, you cannot effectively exist in society, even professionally, if you cannot describe your kin.
So you can't be a fluent speaker if you can't explain who you belong to.
Pretty much. It frames your entire social competence around that family unit.
Okay, so let's get into the machinery of how they teach this. They start with what I'm kind of calling the circle of trust, the immediate family.
The nuclear unit. The foundation.
Now, usually this is the boring part of language class. Mother, father, brother, sister.
I all know these.
We learn these in kindergarten. We know these. But the source does something, weirdly wonderful. It lists the standard English word like mother with the phonetic pronunciation.
Okay, standard enough.
But then it lists a string of synonyms: mom, mummy, ama, and mataji.
Mataji. That stopped me in my tracks when I read it.
Why is that one so significant to you?
Because Mataji isn't English. It's Hindi, and it's a term of immense weighted respect. The suffix G denotes honor.
Right.
By placing it right next to mother in a vocabulary guide, the source is making a very bold linguistic statement. It is saying that English, in this context, is additive, not subtractive.
Let's break that down. What do you mean by additive versus subtractive here?
Well, think about how language is often taught. Historically, at least, it's usually about replacement.
Don't say this, say that.
Exactly. Don't say si, say yes. Don't say ama, say mom. That approach tells the learner that their native culture is an error that needs to be corrected.
Which is not very encouraging.
Not at all. This source takes the opposite approach. It's acknowledging that for the learner, the emotional concept of mother is tied to the sound of ama or mataji. If you force them to delete ama, you delete the emotion.
Right. You turn the mother into a stranger. into just a vocabulary word.
Exactly. So the source says, keep ama, keep mataji, but add mother to your toolkit. It validates the learner's reality. It says you can be an English speaker without losing your Indian identity.
That makes the language feel so much less hostile. You don't have to check your culture at the door to enter the English language. And we see this even more clearly when we get to siblings. This was the part that really highlighted the translation gap for me.
Oh, yeah.
The source doesn't just have brother. It splits it definitively into elder brother and younger brother.
This is non-negotiable in the Indian context. And this is where English really fails to capture the nuance.
What do you mean?
In the West, if I say, this is my brother Dave, the fact that Dave is 2 years older than me is just trivia. It's a fun fact.
Right. It doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change how I speak to him. It doesn't change how I introduce him. And it doesn't change our legal standing in the family.
But in an Indian household?
In an Indian household, age is rank. It is hierarchy. An elder brother is an authority figure. In many traditional families, you might touch his feet as a sign of respect.
Wow.
You use respectful verb conjugations when addressing him in Hindi. A younger brother is someone you protect, you guide, or, perhaps you boss around. They're fundamentally different roles.
So if you just say brother, strictly speaking, you're actually stripping away about 50% of the important data about that relationship.
Precisely. You are rendering the relationship ambiguous in a way that feels uncomfortable for the speaker.
I see.
So the source leans heavily into the adjectives. It treats elder brother almost as a compound noun. It's a title. It's not just a description. It's who he is.
And look at the examples they use to reinforce this. I have them right here. Dad always helps me with my English homework.
A very specific nurturing role.
And for the brother, my younger brother is studying class 10.
Notice the specificity there, class 10.
That's not just a random grade level, is it?
No. In the Indian educational context, class 10 is a massive milestone. It's the year of the board exams. It's high stress.
Okay.
So by saying, my younger brother is in class 10, you are invoking a very specific domestic atmosphere. It implies the house is quiet because he's studying. It implies he needs support.
And the example about the dad being the helper reinforces a nurturing, involved father figure.
Exactly. These aren't just random sentences to practice grammar. They're building a domestic scene that the listener instantly recognizes.
It creates a little world in just a few words. Now, if the immediate family is a foundation, the extended family is where the architecture gets really complicated. And this is where the source has to tackle what we might call the uncle problem.
Oh, the uncle problem. This is the great collapser of complexity.
I know a little bit about this just from friends. In Hindi, the specificity is wild. You have mama for your mother's brother,
Right.
chacha for your father's younger brother, tauji for your father's elder brother, mausi for your mother's sister, bua for your father's sister. I could go on.
And every single one of those words tells you the exact bloodline and the exact hierarchy.
It's like a family tree in one word.
It is. And English looks at that beautiful, intricate web of genetic mapping and social obligation, and it just shrugs and says, uncle.
It's almost insulting. It's like taking a high-resolution photo and turning it into a pixelated icon.
It is high-loss compression, absolutely.
Yeah.
The source handles this with a lot of grace, though.
It does.
It lists uncle and aunt as the English targets because, well, that's the language. But in the parentheses right next to them, it lists all those Hindi terms, cha-cha, mama, mausi, etc.
What is that signaling to the learner?
It's essentially saying, I know. We know this feels imprecise. We know it feels weird and maybe even disrespectful to call your revered Tauji and your fun young mama by the same word. But this is the blunt tool we have to work with.
So it's acknowledging the limitation of English. It's an apology in the form of a vocabulary list.
I think so.
But then, and this is my favorite part of the document, honestly, there is one place where the source refuses to accept that limitation. It draws a line in the sand at cousins.
Yes. The cousin brother and cousin sister.
Now, my high school English teacher, Mrs. Higgins, would have taken a red pen to that.
Oh, for sure.
She would have circled it and written redundant. She would have said, cousin implies the relationship. Adding brother is unnecessary.
But this source embraces it. It explicitly says, quote, we often say cousin brother or cousin sister. That's very common and understood.
Why do that? Why validate something that is technically, grammatically incorrect?
This is a perfect example of a dialect evolving to solve a problem. You have to look at the sociology here.
Okay.
In a joint family structure or a culture where extended family is very, very close, distinguishing gender among cousins is vital.
Why is it so vital compared to, say, the West?
Because in many of these families, cousins grow up essentially as siblings. They might live under the same roof. But there are also social norms regarding gender.
I see.
If I'm telling you a story about my cousin and I just say cousin, you don't know if I'm talking about a male or female relative. In a gender role conscious society, that matters. Cousin brother clarifies that this is a male relative of your generation who is part of your inner circle.
So it carries the weight of brother, but with the genetic distance of cousin.
Exactly. So cousin brother isn't bad English. It's necessary English for that specific cultural context.
It fills a utility gap.
Precisely. By validating this term, the source is prioritizing communication over textbook pedantry. It's telling the listener, if you say this, people in your world will understand you. And that is the point of language.
It's giving them permission to speak their own version of the language. I love that. Okay, so we've established who everyone is. We've navigated the hierarchy. We've figured out who gets a title and who doesn't. Now the source shifts gears entirely. Section 3, the art of observation. We have to describe what these people look like.
And this is where we move from titles to visuals. The source gives a formula, the magic verb formula, as they call it.
It's pretty simple. He, she is adjective plus with feature.
Simple enough. But the vocabulary choices here are, again, fascinating.
It starts standard long hair, short hair, curly, wavy, but then it drops in bald and thinning hair.
Brutally honest, but necessary.
And the specific styling, bun. There's an example about a grandmother with long gray hair that she ties in a bun.
And that is such a specific cultural visual. It's not a bob, it's not a ponytail, it's not a perm, it's a bun.
It appeals to the archetype.
It summons the image of the matriarch immediately. But the real gem in this section, the one that I think deserves a deep dive of its own, is the complexion spectrum.
I notice this immediately. It lists fair, wheatish, and dark.
Wheatish.
I have never seen the word wheatish in a standard American English textbook.
No.
If I use that in New York or London, people might look at me funny.
They might. They probably wouldn't know what you meant. But in South Asian English, it is an indispensable word.
What does it mean exactly?
It describes a skin tone that is light brown or golden, literally the color of wheat grain.
Why is this specific word so important here? Why not just say light brown?
Because standard Western English doesn't really have a good equivalent for this specific point on the spectrum. You might say olive, but that implies a greenish or Mediterranean undertone.
Or tan, but that's temporary.
Right, that implies you went to the beach. Wheatish is the default setting for a billion people. It is a culturally recognized category of beauty and description.
It's amazing that the source includes it. If they didn't, what would the learner do? They'd be stuck trying to choose between white or black or brown, none of which might feel accurate to what they actually see in the mirror.
Exactly. By including wheatish, the source provides the language for their specific reality. It empowers the learner to describe themselves accurately.
It's another example of that additive philosophy we were talking about.
It is. It's customizing the English language to fit the Indian face.
And speaking of describing reality, we have to talk about body types. We get slim, average, well-built, and then chubby.
A bit chubby.
The example sentence is, my mother is short and a little chubby, but very energetic.
I love that sentence.
Now, in some contexts, calling your mother chubby is a dangerous game. You might not get dinner that night.
It certainly is risky, but look at the context here. The source frames it affectionately. It's paired with energetic.
Right, but very energetic.
It suggests a softness, a maternal comfort. It's not body shaming. It's what I call body naming.
Body naming, I like that.
It's just descriptive. It adds a layer of realism. Real mothers aren't all slim or athletic. Some are chubby. And the source says that's okay to say. It feels like a hug in sentence form.
She's short and chubby and energetic. You can see this woman. You know her. You probably like her.
That's the goal, right? To move from stick figures to 3D portraits.
And they don't stop at the body. Section 4 brings in the accessories, the cultural markers, because you aren't just your height and weight. You are what you wear.
This is vital. If you are describing an Indian uncle, you cannot ignore the mustache.
The source explicitly lists mustache and beard. It knows its audience.
It absolutely does. And the clothing. It lists turban, hijab, sari, and kurta pajama.
This is huge. Imagine trying to describe your grandfather who wears a turban every day, but the only words your textbook gave you were hat or cap.
It's not a hat.
You would feel like you were lying every time you described him. A turban isn't a hat.
No, it isn't. Or imagine trying to describe your mother's outfit and having to say she is wearing a long wrapped dress.
No.
She is wearing a sari.
So what's the message there?
By including kurta pajama and sari as valid English vocabulary words to be used in these sentences, the source is saying, your culture belongs in this language. You don't have to translate sari, you just say it. The English language expands to hold it.
There is one example in the full description section that really hit me. It's the narrative about the grandmother.
Oh, yes.
I think it's the most beautiful sentence in the whole script, and it caught me off guard because it's supposed to be a vocabulary lesson.
I think I know exactly which one you mean.
It says, she has white hair tied in a bun and beautiful wrinkled hands from years of cooking.
Beautiful wrinkled hands.
That stopped me. I mean, usually in the West, wrinkled is a negative word. It's something to fix. We buy creams to fight wrinkles. We airbrush them out of photos. But here,
the wrinkles are reframed. They are a badge of honor.
Yeah.
The sentence explicitly links the cause and effect from years of cooking. It connects the physical appearance to the act of service, of nurturing, of feeding the family. It transforms a grammar lesson into a poetic tribute.
it really does. It stops being about subject plus verb plus adjective and starts being about how do I honor this person?
And that ties back to the mission statement we discussed at the beginning. The source isn't just teaching words, it's teaching how to view these relationships through a new lens. It's emotional intelligence alongside linguistic intelligence.
It's teaching you to see the beauty in the wrinkled hands because of what those hands have done for you.
Exactly.
So we've got the words, we've got the Wheatish complexion, the elder brother, the kurta pajama, the wrinkled hands. We have built this incredible textured picture of the family. Now, Section 5 asks, what do we do with all this?
Application. The source is very, very practical.
It lists where you'll use this vocabulary. Family video calls, meeting new people, and this one I found interesting, job interviews.
Job interviews.
That seems odd to a Western ear. If I went into a corporate interview in the US and they asked me about my grandmother's cooking, I'd be confused. In fact, legally, they often can't ask about your family.
True. In the US, that's a legal minefield. But in many other cultures, and certainly in the Indian context, this source is designed for tell me about your background or tell me about your family is a standard icebreaker.
It's a vetting process.
Absolutely. It's a way to assess a candidate's values, their stability, their roots. Are you grounded? Do you come from good people?
And if you fumble that question,
If you can't answer that smoothly, you might seem disconnected or aloof. So this vocabulary isn't just for chatting with friends. It is actually career critical.
that is a fascinating distinction. So the source provides a golden cheat sheet, a rapid fire review. It pushes opposites, tall, short, straight, curly, but it emphasizes compliments. Pretty, handsome, good looking. And then we get to the homework assignment.
The challenge.
The task is to record yourself for 90 to 120 seconds describing a family member. That is a long time to talk if you're a beginner.
It's an eternity. Most beginners struggle to fill 30 seconds. 120 seconds requires a narrative.
You can't just list facts.
No, you have to tell us stories. You have to flow.
But there's a rule for the homework. Describe one family member in the comments, but keep it sweet and positive.
I love this constraint. It seems simple, but it's actually brilliant pedagogy.
Wait, why not let them vent about their annoying younger brother? Why not let them be real?
Because of how the brain learns. Language learning is high anxiety. You feel stupid, you stumble, your heart races, the cortisol levels go up.
Okay.
If you associate speaking English with criticizing someone or describing negative things, the brain builds a negative association loop. English, stress, plus negativity.
That makes sense. You don't want to dread the language.
Exactly. By forcing the learner to focus on beautiful hands or warm smiles or energetic mothers, the source links the practice of English with the feeling of gratitude and affection.
It hacks the brain.
It does. You're using the love for your family to power through the difficulty of the grammar. You're getting a dopamine hit from the memory of the person while you're doing the hard work of the linguistics.
So you're using love as fuel for learning.
Precisely. And practically, think about the social context again. If you are introducing your family to a new friend or a colleague, you want to present them in a good light.
Sure.
My father is serious but funny. That's one of the examples. That's a great way to introduce someone. It sets expectations. It creates character depth. You are learning to be a good storyteller, not just a good speaker.
It's social training as much as it is vocabulary training. It's teaching you how to be charming in your second language.
Which is the ultimate goal of fluency, isn't it? To not just be understood, but to be liked.
So we've taken quite a journey here. We started with the simple words mummy and pitaji, navigated the complex hierarchy of elder brother, embraced the cultural specificity of cousin brother, and painted portraits with wheatish skin and wrinkled hands.
It's a lot for one, 25-minute lesson script.
It's a dense download of cultural coding. It's doing so much more than just teaching English.
It's teaching Indian English as a valid, robust dialect.
The source teases that tomorrow, day 13, they are going clothes shopping and bargaining.
Which implies a movement. We started in the home, in the private sphere. We learned to describe our inner circle.
Right.
Now that we can describe the people in the home, we are ready to take them out into the marketplace. It's a logical progression. From the circle of trust to the bazaar.
I love that. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a thought based on what we've discussed today.
What's on your mind?
We've spent this whole time validating terms like cousin brother and wheatish, terms that a strict old-school British grammar teacher might circle in red and mark as incorrect.
Well, absolutely.
But for the user of this source, these words are essential. They are real.
It raises the fundamental question, who owns a language?
Exactly. Is English defined by a textbook printed in Oxford? Or is it defined by the millions of people who use it every day to describe their grandmother's aloo paratha?
I would argue that language is a tool. It's a hammer. If the hammer cannot drive the nail you need to drive, if it can't describe the kurta pajama or the specific rank of your brother, then the tool is broken, not the carpenter.
And this source is fixing the tool.
It's bending English to fit the user rather than forcing the user to break themselves to fit English.
That is a powerful place to end. Language works for you, not the other way around. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
A pleasure as always.
Go call your cousin brother and tell him he looks handsome. We'll see you next time.